The Trail, Chapter 17. Power Raid! I wake up to the sound of spoons clattering and voices shouting in the dining room. Jake is halfway out the door and pounding down the stairs before I tumble out of the hammock. The cup is no longer there. I rush to the window. It has been yanked down and lies broken amid the tossed spoons in the dining room floor. A girl with brown hair pulled into a tight ponytail is holding the paddle of the oar, while a guy with spiky blue hair and a tie-dyed t-shirt is using a Swiss Army knife to slice the fishing line off the handle. Another guy with dreadlocks has climbed on top of one of the benches and is busily removing a no parking sign from the wall. My heart jumps into my throat. I want to run down there and tackle the raiding crew, but the guys pulling down the oar look big and determined. I feel helpless. It'd be easy for them to squash like a bug if I tried to fight them. Jake comes into view, a howling tornado of protests. He grabs the middle of the oar and leaps onto the dining room table, wrapping his body into a human knot around the wooden shaft. "You're not getting the oar, Pete," he yells. "Hi, Jake," the blue-haired guy says cheerfully. "I do believe I am getting the oar. Hannah, check and see if anyone's upstairs. We need to make sure that Jake's the only one around." The girl with the ponytail nods. Panicked, I duck down from the window and crawl under the bunk bed as I hear footsteps climb the stairs. I scrunch up and try to make myself as still and silent as possible. Two neon yellow sneakers appear in the doorway. I can see flecks of mud and dirt on her shoelaces as they wind up to make little bows below a pair of gray wool socks. The sneakers step into the room and approach the bunk bed. They are close. I swear a girl can feel my heart thumping like a jackrabbit's against the wooden floor. "Pete, there's no one up here," Hannah calls down from the window. The neon sneakers take one more turn around the room before they finally leave, and I remember to breathe again. I wriggle out from under the bed and take a quick look through the crew window. "George, get the duct tape," Pete barks to the dreadlocked guy, who's trying unsuccessfully to peel Jake off the oar. George grabs a roll of duct tape and tosses it to Hannah before joining Pete. Oh no, I wonder what they're going to do. Together, the two burly guys pry Jake off the oar. First his fingers, then his arms, then his legs, and reluctant feet. Burly, we know what that word means. Hannah is waiting with duct tape. They hold him down while she winds the tape around his hands and ankles until he's completely immobile or unable to move. With a flourish, Pete rips off one last piece of tape and seals it across Jake's mouth. Once Jake is taped up, Pete, Hannah, and George go to town on the dining room, unscrewing bolts and pulling out nails to free all the decorations until the walls are bare. They pile up the signs they've taken and tie them to a wooden packboard that they have brought with them before carrying them to the front porch. Oh my gosh, they've taken all their special items. Pete picks up the oar and lashes it to the packboard using a length of twine. He takes his time looping and knotting the twine tightly to make it extra secure. He gives the oar a loud kiss and carries it reverently to the porch. When he returns, he smacks his lips together. Snack time, anyone? Pete and the other two raiding crew members disappear below me into the kitchen. I hear them shuffling about, raiding more than just signs and the oar. Jake has been placed on top of the dining room table. He looks up and sees me. His head tilts a little and his eyes fixate on the front porch for a moment, then jumping back over to me. I know what he wants me to do. It scares me. I can handle the woods. I don't know if I can handle people. Especially confident, ridiculously in-shape college kids who would kill me if they caught me. Come on, Toe. Don't be a chicken. It's Lucas in my head again. I take a deep breath and look around the crew room. On the table next to the radio, a pair of pink scissors is jammed into the wide-mouthed mason jar along with black permanent markers and pens. I pick up the scissors. My hands are shaking so hard I nearly jab myself as I tuck them into my pocket. There is a door in the crew room that leads to the metal catwalk over the backyard. I open it quietly and tiptoe across it. The kitchen windows are open and directly below me. I can hear Pete laughing as he crunches on something. I reach the end of the catwalk and make a wide, counterclockwise circle to the front of the hut. Ducking below the dining room, I drop to my hands and knees to crawl over the packboards on one of the porches. But both porch doors have been propped wide open, and all I can see Jake slumped in the front of the dining room table. He slides his eyes over to me, and I give a quick nod. As quietly as I can, I begin cutting the twine, pinning the oar to Pete's packboard. My hands wobble like crazy. Pete's tied some good knots, and it takes several tries before they give way to the multi-purpose shears. Yo, Jake, you want some crackers? The voice sounds like it's right next to me. I look up. George is standing in front of Jake holding a box of Triscuits. He only has to swing his head left to see me through the doorway. A 12-year-old nothing of a kid, crouched above the most precious raid item in the entire hut system. George rips off the duct tape, keeping Jake silent. He pulls out a cracker and makes a dive-bombing sound as he swoops toward Jake's mouth. The cracker starts curving left. Hey man, can you stir the soup and take out the bread? Jake asks. Yeah, no problem. The cracker flies back to the center and is fed to Jake. George throws a handful of Triscuits down the hatch and then heads back to the kitchen munching. I thought they were enemies, but it sounds like they're working together. I slide my hands around the center of the oar and hoist it up. The paddle end is heavier than I realize, and it rises 2 inches above before gravity takes over and thunks gently onto the floorboard. I wince. One of the raid crew must have heard me. I wait a few agonizing seconds, but no one comes to inspect the noise. I breathe in quiet, shallow gulps as I shift my grip and swing the oar sideways. Waddling under the weight, I move off the porch. There's a short bark. Moose runs over to me, his tail wagging. He's woken up from his nap at exactly the wrong moment. Shh! I bend down to quiet him, nearly ramming the oar to the ground. I swing it up at the last second and motion for Moose to follow me down the trail. We get about 20 yards from the hut. 1 yard is 3 feet, so 3 times 60 feet. I hear someone shouting, "We've been found out!" I crash off the trail and into the woods. I nearly eat dirt when the oar dips down and rams into the ground. I sprawl forward and just barely catch myself on Moose's skinny back. He whines and holds still while I get my feet back under me. I yank the oar level again, keep going, trying to keep all 8 feet of it from wobbling out of balance again. It seems to bang every bush and tree it passes, but it doesn't hit the ground again. 100 yards later, I stop panting hard. I prop the oar against a maple tree and quiet my breath. I wait for the sound of pursuit, but none come. I sit on the rock with Moose by my side and wait. After an hour, I'm convinced that I've waited long enough. I carry the oar back until I can see the trail, then stash it behind an old, rotting log. When I get back to the hut, the signs on the front porch are gone. I tell Moose to stay outside and head in. Jake's in the kitchen digging a spoon into a pint of Ben & Jerry's Chunky Monkey ice cream. When he sees me, he grins. You got the oar? I nod. Jake laughs. The crew from Greenleaf are mighty mad. They couldn't figure out where it went. I think I convinced them that Zealand has a ghost thief. Ghost thief? I could get used to that name. Sounds wily. Jake goes to the freezer and removes the second pint. It's fish food. Chocolate ice cream with chocolate fish swimming in marshmallow swirls. My favorite. Also my favorite. Jake hands me a pint and a spoon. For you. Where'd you get it? Whether or not a raid is successful, it's tradition for the raiding crew members to offer tokens of consolation to the crew that gets raided. In this case, we're the lucky winners of 2 pints of Ben & Jerry's. So that was a power raid, I say as Jake and I gobble and slurp down our pints. Yep, Jake says, licking the spoon. It's more risky than a night raid. If any of the crew had stayed around, we could have shut them down. He pats me on the back. But they weren't, and we still have the oar. I'm glad you were here, Tony. After we finish the ice cream, I show Jake where I hid the ore. We spend the afternoon rigging it to the wall. When we are done, it's the only decoration in the dining room. But it's enough. As I stare at one of the silver spoons peeking out from the oar's paddle, a flicker of pride shoots through me. I did it. I helped Jake out and didn't screw everything up. I can protect things. It feels like my bad luck is turning. I think Andy's marble, safely tucked away in my pack. Once again, it seems to be working. What do you guys think? Is it the marble? What's causing his good luck?